Investigation that led to charges against two of his associates. But apparently Giuliani was at the White House this weekend, and apparently Trump on Friday was angry and lashing out at Rudy Giuliani. I guess he found out finally how much Rudy was being paid for all of his legal services for the impeachment, or I'm sorry, for the election fraud cases, $20,000 a day. Apparently Trump was super pissed about it and said, we're not paying him. Which Trump is good at, right? Not paying contractors that he hires. So it's no surprise there. So there's a lot of questions as to who else is on this list. Who else could he curry favor with by pardoning? So we're likely to see that over the next 24 to 48 hours. There's not much time left, of course, because there's only 2 days until Trump is out of there. 2 hours, 48 minutes. It's kind of funny when you think about that. That's how much time is left.
You really got to wonder when he leaves office because of and there's nobody's going to want to attach their name to his now. Like I don't, if anybody attaches their name to his with anything, like book deals, there's not going to be any book companies that are going to want to publish his books. There's not going to be banks that want to work with him. People like celebrities are going to distance themselves from him. Like, is there anybody? Like, what the heck is he going to do? Like, we might see him on the streets of New York one day.
I hope so. I don't know what he's going to do. I mean, you have all these banks that, you're right, have distanced themselves from him. $17 million in revenue has now just been cut by New York State. It's New York City, Bill de Blasio, said we're done doing these contracts with the Trump organization. The PGA has pulled up their stakes. They're not having any more PGA tournaments at his golf clubs. You know, he's become politically toxic, of course, but he's become personally and financially toxic. I mean, the guy had $500 million in debt, according to his tax returns. And a lot of those debts are coming due. And on top of that, he's got all this mounting legal trouble that he's facing when he leaves.
Well, hopefully he can sell pillows.
Right. Maybe the My Pillow guy went to the White House to offer him a job. So on the impeachment front, that's the next bit of news that's unfolding this morning. And Senator Lindsey Graham has been calling on Chuck Schumer to hold a vote to dismiss the articles of impeachment against Trump. He's urging incoming Senate Majority Leader Charles Schumer to hold a vote to dismiss the articles of impeachment against Trump. Graham wrote in a letter to Schumer on Sunday that the New York Democrat is seeking vengeance and political retaliation in his first act as Majority Leader instead of beginning a national healing. So when asked about whether or not we should continue with this impeachment proceeding, there's been some interesting developments over the past 24 hours. I want to play for you Jamie Raskin. He's a Democrat who just lost his son. This has gone viral overnight, where Jamie Raskin, I mean, he gives really like an incredible speech about losing his son and about not giving up on this impeachment proceeding. I want you to listen to Jamie Raskin sitting down with Jake Tapper. It's pretty powerful.
I want to turn now to a different subject because I think it's a lot of people watching know how remarkable it is that you have the energy to do what you're doing, given the fact that you're dealing with a family tragedy. You lost your son, 25-year-old Tommy, to depression. You wrote a very moving reflection on his, quote, perfect heart, a perfect soul, a riotously outrageous and relentless sense of humor, and a dazzling radiant mind.
My wife Sarah and I wrote this together.
Tell us more about Tommy.
Tommy was a remarkable person. He had overwhelming love for humanity and for our country in his heart, and really for all the people of the world. We lost him on the very last day of that god-awful year, 2020, and he left us a note which said, "Please forgive me, my illness won today. Look after each other, the animals, and the global poor for me. All my love, Tommy." And that was the last act in a life that dazzled anybody who came into contact with Tommy. He was a slam poet who wrote these magnificent 20, 30-minute poems, which he, of course, knew by heart, and he would get up and perform them. He was absolutely devoted to human rights for every person. He was devoted to animal rights and welfare. He was a passionate vegan and convinced a lot of people to stop eating animals just through the force of his poetry. He was a second-year student at Harvard Law School.
Beautiful kid.
When we lost him, he had not only beloved friends at Harvard Law School, but he was teaching a course with Michael Sandel, Justice, as a teaching fellow at the college, and so he had students of his own, and he graded all of his papers and exams and wrote many pages analyzing the work of the students and writing back to them, and he made donations in each of their names to different charitable groups that he thought would be consistent with the values of the student, and so some of them went to give directly or to Oxfam or so on. And I asked him why he did that, and he quoted something that Father Berrigan had said about the great Dorothy Day. He said, well, like Father Berrigan said about Dorothy Day, she lived as though the truth were true. And he said, I want to show them that the truth is true and we can live that way. So, people are asking me why I decided to do this. First of all, I don't know if you've ever tried to say no to Speaker Pelosi about anything.
Happy Martin Luther King Day.
Very sensitive and thoughtful, but she wanted me to do it because she knows that I've devoted my life to the Constitution.
You may not be black, but that's okay. He wanted us all to be together anyway.
But I did it really with my son in my heart and helping lead the way. I feel him in my chest. When we went to count the Electoral College votes and it came under that ludicrous attack, I felt my son with me, and I was most concerned with our youngest daughter and my son-in-law, who's married to our other daughter, who were with me that day, who got caught in a room off of the House floor, and between them and me was a rampaging armed mob that could have killed them easily and was banging on the doors where they were hiding under a desk with my chief of staff, Julie Tagan. These events are personal to me, Jake. There was an attack on our country. There's an attack on our people. There are thousands of people who work on Capitol Hill, not just members, but staff members and Capitol Hill police officers who were pushed and shoved and punched in the face, pummeled and hit over the head with fire extinguishers. And the President of the United States did nothing to stop it for more than 2 hours as members of Congress were calling him and begging him to do something. And he continued to watch it on TV and to enjoy their, insurrection tailgate party where they were celebrating the attack on our democracy. This president has been impeached already twice, and we just want the Senate to conduct a serious trial where every member of the Senate lives up to his or her constitutional oath to render impartial judgment as a juror.
Congressman, I can't even begin to express my condolences for what you and your wife and your daughters and family are dealing with. I can't also imagine having that trauma compounded with this other trauma. You just lost your son, and now you're in Congress worrying about your daughter and your other daughter's husband because of these terrorists who had attacked the Congress. That trauma on top of trauma, it just seems so debilitating.
Well,
what the fuck you bugging him about it for?
I'm not going to lose my son at the end of 2020 and lose my country and my republic in 2021. It's not going to happen.
Zodabrod. On the early. Good morning, sir.
Pretty powerful. So he's leading the
Happy Martin Luther King Day.
And was happy to do it after Nancy Pelosi asked him to do it. Lindsey Graham over in the Senate is trying to get Chuck Schumer to end this thing. Hey, this is, you're just trying to be vindictive against President Trump. And it's amazing to me, like, he just
Happy Martin Luther King Day.
President Trump's feet, does Lindsey Graham. Well, Karl Rove and others don't think the president's going to have an easy walk of this, especially as Mitch McConnell is lining up possibly to convict President Trump in the Senate. Listen to Karl Rove, his take on all this. And
I congratulate you pulling up, being the first person to speak to me while I got politics going on. That works.
He's not a dumb guy at all. But I am. So I can't get this audio to play.
We got a lot of big things going on this week. I hope you and your family stay safe, you and yours.
Sorry about that, folks. Let's try this now.
Carl,
America finna get
Mitch
dumb.
McConnell says that he is keeping an open mind about the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump. A big difference, sharp difference from his clear opposition from the very start of the first impeachment trial just a year ago. What do you think, Carl, are the chances that 17 Senate Republicans, and that's what it would take, if all of the Democrats vote for conviction, 17 Senate Republicans would vote to convict Donald Trump and remove him. Well, he'll be removed from office, but to keep him from running again.
You got any dogs in the fight
Normally we'd say
for the
not
games
much
today?
but I think Leader McConnell's statement is a sign that every Republican senator needs to take this seriously. And I think it's all going to boil down to what's the
We got
president's defense.
Green
Giuliani
Bay.
charted a very bad course for the president in the morning papers when he suggested that the argument was going to be, well, there couldn't have been
KC, the
incitement because
Bills.
all the charges of widespread voter fraud are true. Well, those charges and the so-called experts that the campaign has mustered to advocate them have been rejected by over 50
And who?
courts, with judges appointed by President
beat
Trump,
Drew
President
Brees?
Obama, President Bush, President Clinton, and I think even one Reagan
I watched the
justice.
game.
So,
I don't even remember now.
If it's the Rudy Giuliani defense, there is a strong likelihood that more than 17 Republicans will, because essentially that argument is this was justified. The attack on the Capitol and the attempt to end the congressional hearing on certifying the election was justified because all these charges are true. And frankly,
KC's
they
gonna
aren't.
play
They
the
have
Bills.
been given every opportunity to prove them in a
Green
court of
Bay
law
is gonna
and failed
play.
to do so. So I think it really boils down to what's the defense that the president is going to make, and if it's Rudy Giuliani's defense,
Hey,
I
Google.
think it raises the likelihood of more than 17 Republicans voting for
Right.
conviction.
Wow.
Hey Google,
Karl Rove.
what teams play football
talks to
today?
Mitch McConnell regularly. He doesn't go on Fox
Yesterday,
News
the
and say
Buccaneers
something
beat
like
the
that
Saints
unless he
30-20.
knows.
The Browns lost to the Chiefs
I
22
know
to
Karl
17.
well.
Last Saturday, the Ravens lost to the
and
Bills 17
There
Bitch,
to
I
is
said
one
seven.
tonight.
that has more access to Republicans.
It's not tonight.
Republican information,
So the Chiefs and the Bills.
whip count numbers in the Senate than Karl Rove. Still, he's one of the most sought after.
And the
political
Packers
advisors
and fucking
in
Tampa.
Republican circles.
Because I was like, I watched the game. Fucking Brady beat
So if he's saying that President
Brady
Trump
beat
was facing
fucking
a battle
Brees.
and Rudy Giuliani just screwed him over once again, that's got to be of concern to President Trump.
I don't have any dog in the fight. I'm not
It'll be
rooting
interesting to watch.
for
So tomorrow, I mean, so
Tampa or nothing
impeachment,
because of Brady.
starts technically tomorrow in the Senate, unless Mitch McConnell delays it. We still don't know if the Senate parliamentarian, like, what's going to happen. Will this unfold tomorrow? They're going to push it.
I'm
back
just a
2 weeks.
football
We're still
fan
waiting
at this
on the
point.
timeline. But then, of course, he only has 1 day left,
What the
and then it raises questions about can they continue to prosecute him and convict him while he's out of office. All of those things are being taken up by scholars and constitutional scholars. But nevertheless, if he's impeached, then that means he'll never be able to run
fucking
again.
falling in the garbage.
And he will have all those protections removed from him by the United States government. And then it'll be interesting to see whether or not he decides to go forth and open up a presidential library. Like I
Fish
would
that out.
love to know what would be inside of a Trump presidential library. As he's admitted, he's only read 1 book. He doesn't read pages that are long. He doesn't read briefing reports that are longer than 1 page.
That's why
Kids, we're
Twitter's
taking a
perfect for
field
him.
today. I know, it's the perfect platform. Oh, you only get 280 characters? Perfect. By the way, have you noticed that the President Trump has been, instead of using Twitter, he's been releasing statements through official channels at the White House, right? The White House press release. The White House has issued a statement. And now, instead of it being a long statement from President Trump, it's like literally 2 sentences. It's like he's now tweeting using the official press release platform of the White House. It's pretty funny to see that stuff archived in the National Archives next to, long letters written by presidents past, and then these like little 2-sentence statements from President Trump. But I would love, that would be a field trip I would love to go on, to go to the Trump Presidential Library as a kid. Hey kids, I need to have you have to sign these permission slips from your parents because we're going on a field trip next week. Yeah, where are we going, Mrs. Johnson? We're going to the Trump Presidential Library. Wow, what did you learn today? Well, they have 1 book in the library. They have 30,000 copies of The Art of the Deal. And they have a fantastic lunch counter.
And a bunch of paintings of Trump.
Right. That's like Sylvester Stallone's house, where he's just got paintings of himself all over the house. He paints. He's a painter, and he just paints himself. I know this because... Why do I know that? Oh, because we were friends with someone who used to was like a high-profile moving company owner, where they would do like They would do big moves for like Hollywood celebrities, you know, and so they were moving stuff for one of his ex-girlfriends, and or went to Sylvester Stallone's house and had to move. They were moving all of these giant paintings in the house, and they were all like paintings of himself.
Well, Clayton, that's all you guys see when I look in the mirror.
You knocked him down. Why you try knocking me down?
No, there's one of Adrian over there.
Mickey! And shout out random Rocky phrases. Oh boy. So right now, this is what Washington D.C. looks like. These are the streets.
Zoda, what you got going on this early in the morning, man? What you doing?
You can see people tweeting.
You up for breakfast? You headed to work? What you got going on?
Guard troops marching through the streets of Washington this morning.
Ready for the chaos of America? What you doing up this early?
The whole city is overrun as thousands of these National Guard troops pour in from all over the country. And by the way, if you're a member of the National Guard, former member of the National Guard, thank you for your service. I know we had a few of you guys watching here on the show. I'm curious about this process and what this looks like, because now we're learning this morning that the FBI is looking at all of these individuals and running basically background checks on these people. U.S. defense officials say they're worried about another, like an insider attack from service members. This is according to the Associated Press. It's kind of a bombshell story this morning. That there's insiders they're worried about. And U.S. defense officials are saying this. This is not coming from like this is coming from Trump's Defense Department. Are worried about an insider attack.
Can you turn the video down just a little bit?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just reaching over. So imagine the FBI having to do all of these background checks. Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy told the Associated Press on Sunday that officials are conscious of a potential new threat and that he warned commanders to be on the lookout for any problems within their ranks as the inauguration approaches. So far, they said leaders have said they have not seen any evidence of threats, and officials said the vetting hadn't flagged any issues yet that they were aware of. They said, quote, McCarthy said, we're continually going through the process and taking second, third looks at every one of the individuals assigned to this operation.
Well, and I think I saw a number of 20,000. Was that the number? Or are there more now?
25,000 troops.
25,000 troops?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, is it possible to do background checks, thorough background checks on 25,000 people in that short amount of time? But what does it say, the fact that these are our National Guard and we're having to do this? Like, I mean, given what we saw at the Capitol and members of Congress who were leading tours with people and members of the military or members of the, who were off-duty police officers taking photos and selfies with members of on-duty Capitol police officers. Moving in formation with earpieces and respiratory equipment and were on radios. You know, if you watch 60 Minutes last night, you hear from the people involved in this, and they said they knew exactly what they were doing. By dropping these pipe bombs and these other things across town, they diverted our attention on purpose, drew us away. So there were pipe bombs and all these Molotov cocktails and these other things that were left in order to draw us away from the Capitol. And then they were able to lift up these dog gates and go right through, they said.
No, they were let in.
They knew what they were doing.
They were let in.
Well, then maybe we need to start doing background checks on regular military and stuff too, and Congress and Senate, and quit putting psychopaths in these positions. Psychopaths that go over. I mean, they put psychopaths in there that go over and just kind of take it upon themselves to do bad things over in these other countries, and then they come over here and get pardoned for it.
Yeah. Well, one of the problems with the military, very little, and I don't think there's anyone in the military right now that can answer any, like, recent military that could answer this question for me. Do you have to go through, like, any kind of extensive background check?
Yes.
I mean, remember when George W. Bush got flack for lowering, because, I mean, we were in two wars, like, who really wanted to join the military, right? So during George W. Bush's tenure, they reduced the threshold that which you could get into the military. Some of like the physical threshold, like if you were a certain amount overweight, etc. They allowed you to be like, basically they allowed you to be more out of shape. They also lowered the mental capacity, like IQ tests were dropped as well during George W. Bush's tenure. And I don't know that that's ever been rolled back. But even beyond that, do they do, like when you want to join the FBI or the CIA or whatever, you got to do extensive background checks. Do they do that with the military? Does anyone know?
Darren's saying it's very extensive.
Oh, really? To join the military, it's very extensive background checks. Okay, interesting. Definitely, they dug through all of my history. Ty White says they do a minor background check. I guess it depends on what branch of the military you're going in, right? Mr. Wisdom Seeker says no, they don't.
No, in general.
Think of the murderers at Fort Hood.
That's
Grave
inside.
Circumstances says no, it hasn't been rolled back.
Grave circumstances.
So it depends on which position, Trish says. Okay. Yeah, I would assume so. Like I have friends who are, Marine Corps pilots, I'm sure that there's different background checks, mental stress tests, all that kind of stuff for different positions in the military. So, nevertheless, they're doing a 3-hour security drill right now in preparation for Wednesday's inauguration. So that's what you see all this marching here on your screen. If you're just joining us, these are all National Guard troops taking over D.C. It's like a war zone. I mean, it's like an occupied city, like what you'd expect, like on the inside the Green Zone in Baghdad. This is the United States of America.
Right.
And in a situation like this, the FBI, like this one, the FBI's vetting would involve running through people's names through databases and watch lists maintained by the Bureau to see if anything alarming pops up. But that could, that could involve like prior investigations or any sort of terrorism-related concerns. Said David Gomez, who's a former FBI special security supervisor up in Seattle. So they have to go through this extensive process in order to find these people. 25,000 people. But I guess the good news is that there's really no one coming to the Capitol. The National Mall is closed, so it's going to be a weird inauguration on Wednesday. By the way, we're going to have a live show on Wednesday during the inauguration, so anyone who'd love to join us during that show, please subscribe to the channel right here and turn on that little bell notification so you'll be notified when we go live on YouTube, and then on Twitch, please follow us, on Facebook as well. We're going to do a live show, so everyone come join us. We'll do a big live show on the inauguration morning.
Do you know what time that is, Clayton? Just out of curiosity.
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends on when the speeches will go. I mean, obviously noon is the official time when he has to be sworn in. So like right around noon, speech will probably start somewhere after 10 o'clock, 10:30. It depends. They do all the formal some performances and beforehand. And it'll depend on like when they start his speech. Could be like 11 a.m. Eastern, somewhere in that time frame. So we'll probably start, I think around 10 a.m. Eastern, 10:30. We'll see. So I'll post a schedule here on the channel that you can RSVP and join us. So we'll have that date and time all set for you. So that's the FBI side. So let's talk about Bernie Sanders. So Bernie Sanders, as you know, is the incoming Senate Budget Committee chairman. And boy, has this got under the collar of some conservatives, particularly Nikki Haley, of course. Nikki Haley tweeted this out yesterday and said, "Time to face the harsh reality. Socialist Bernie Sanders will become," and she said it just like that, by the way. I'm adding my own intonation to it as if I imagine her typing it out. "Time to face the harsh reality. Socialist Bernie Sanders will become the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. He has vowed to use his position to enact his progressive agenda on health care, climate, infrastructure spending, and cutting defense spending." To which, notice who responded, Jane Sanders, Bernie's, is that Bernie's daughter? Bernie's wife. I forget. I don't know his wife's name off the top of my head. I apologize. Tweets, but she's a family member. I don't know if it's his wife. I think it is. Is it his wife? Anyway.
Yeah, it looks like his wife.
Tweets, Jane. Yeah, Jane. Jane tweets, Yes, he has. So, this is funny on a couple of levels because a couple of years ago, this goes back a couple of years, back to 2016, Congressman Paul Ryan of Wisconsin, who was then, of course, the Speaker of the GOP-controlled House of Representatives, said that year that in that election, he said, if we lose the Senate, do you know who becomes chair of the Senate Budget Committee? A guy named Bernie Sanders. Have you ever heard of him? That would be my worst nightmare. Well, guess what? A lot of people taking to Twitter last night to tell Congressman Paul Ryan, the former Congressman Paul Ryan, that your worst nightmare has now come true, because Bernie Sanders is now the head. He is the head of the Senate Budget Committee, and oh boy, it's going to get worse for Republicans before it gets better, because of what Bernie Sanders is going to be able to implement as head of the Budget Committee. So here is the announcement. Bernie Sanders was proud of this announcement, released this video, and we'll play it, and I want to talk more about some of the tweet responses we're getting on this.
Bernie Sanders is the budget chairman.
If we lose the Senate, do you know who becomes the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee?
In 2016, Paul Ryan said Republicans should be scared of Democrats controlling the Senate because Bernie Sanders would be the budget chair.
A guy named Bernie Sanders. You ever heard of him?
Bernie's budget, Bernie Sanders speaking out on spending priorities.
The Senate Budget Committee is really one of the most powerful in Congress because it controls the money.
Sanders has been creating a new stimulus package that could include an emergency universal health care program so that anyone can get medical treatment during the pandemic, whether they currently have insurance or not.
We are proposing to raise the minimum wage so that people can earn a living wage. The American people are hurting very badly. What do the American people want? They want us to create jobs. They want us to rebuild a crumbling infrastructure and create millions of jobs. We now have the opportunity to move this country forward with a very different set of priorities.
Sanders has no problems being loud and bold.
Bernie is a man of his convictions.
I think the job of many of us is to keep banging away over and over again and ask why it is that we end up having millions of people sleeping out on the street.
My friend Bernie Sanders, I can think of no more passionate, devoted ally to working people in this country.
Senator Sanders says that he will use budget reconciliation process to boldly address the needs of working families.
We're talking about moms trying to feed their kids, people worried about being thrown out on the street.
The landlord here has started an eviction process against us.
Never thought I'd be in this situation ever.
I have no money for rent.
If we get kicked out of our house, where are we going to go?
1 out of 4 corporations doesn't pay a nickel in taxes. We are going to start to tax the wealthiest people in this country and the largest corporations. We just voted the largest military budget in the history of this country, $740 billion. The Pentagon can't even do an independent audit. There's an enormous amount of waste in that budget, but no one worries about that. When it comes to the mom and dad who are struggling to put food on the table for their kids, oh my God, we're worried about the deficit.
I need help because I'm about to be homeless.
What our job has got to be is to bring people together around an agenda that is in fact supported by the vast majority of the American people.
Wow. So, if you can't have him as president of the United States, as a progressive president of the United States, standing up for working class people, trying to push for Medicare for all, a living wage for most Americans, fixing this climate crisis that we have, then maybe the next best thing is to have him as chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. So when Nikki Haley says, when she tweets out and says, it's time to face the harsh reality that socialist Bernie Sanders will become the chairman. He's vowed to use his position to enact a progressive agenda on healthcare, climate, infrastructure, and cutting defense spending. I mean, I tweeted out just a short time after that, and I said, oh, yeah, it's about damn time. It's about damn time. To which I got a lot of heated responses, as you can imagine. It's about damn time to what? Give away everything, allowing illegal caravans into the country? Turn the U.S. into a socialist utopia? Please explain what it's about damn time for.
Oh my gosh, Clayton.
To which I
Jack Mick, I think that's Trump's new account.
Oh, Jack Mick? Hey, Donald.
No.
It's Donald Trump.
I mean, that sounds like something he'd say.
I responded to Donald and said, you've been brainwashed by the right-wing media. It's about time to start helping Americans. It's about time to start protecting workers. It's about time to provide health care. It's about time to end foreign wars. It's about time.
Agreed.
Love this one from Sandeep. He says to Nikki Haley, imagine being horrified by the prospect of spending more money on things that make life better for people everywhere and less on things designed to kill people outside of the United States.
Wow.
Stephen Hale, oh no, you don't mean sick Americans will be able to get looked after like people in every other rich country in the world. What a terrible, harsh reality. Shocking, really.
And you know what's sad is they probably blocked those people.
Oh, yeah, probably. Robin Lee says, imagine thinking of these things, that healthcare, clean air, and water, fewer bombs dropping on innocents, are bad things. Love that. Only in America would Bernie be labeled a socialist. Every other developed nation already pretty much has all of these programs he espouses, including socialized medicine. Yeah, imagine. And then I get another tweet response, which is like, our national debt is $27 trillion, to which I say, great. Let's actually focus on getting that balanced. And the amount of money that we waste every year on meaningless horse shit and lining the pockets of Wall Street and big businesses and defense contractors, imagine putting that money back here at home. Imagine not spending $740 billion a year on our defense budget.
Well, and imagine if any company that was contracted by the United States charged the government exactly what something cost instead of inflating the price by they spend like $100 per bolt. That's probably like a 2-cent bolt. You know, like they did. People
you remember Al Gore? Remember Al Gore going on David Letterman's show back when he was vice president under Clinton? And he put on the protective glasses and he brought that ashtray with a hammer. One of the things that the Clinton administration wanted to do was to try to streamline government and not have people pay ridiculous prices for things like an ashtray in government offices where they had to test it. So he got out the hammer and they smashed the glass ashtray. And if the shards accounted for like 2,000 shards, then it wasn't good enough. They had to then get it rebuilt, and it's ridiculous, like the amount of money spent on that kind of stuff. So that his whole illustration, he brought like a thick book with him on Letterman that night to show like what kinds of ridiculous things the government spends money on.
Yeah, one of the things was
overpay for all kinds of stuff.
One of the things was testing the consistency of ketchup.
Right, right. Yeah, this is good money to be spent. That's money well spent. That's a little chalky ketchup. Thank you, government.
What was that? Did you ever see that movie War Dogs? Where those guys...
Oh, is that the...
Jonah Hill?
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Okay, that's you need to watch that movie, because it, like, shows how these people that get government contracts, the government doesn't care what you charge. Like, they'll just like, you got the contract, and then they just invoice them, and they're like, okay, here you go. And they don't, like, you know, they pay outrageous things for, like, what were they... Did you ever hear the story about toilet seats? What they pay for toilet seats?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Nancy Dubin in our chat says, yeah, the toilet seat that costs $10,000. Yeah.
Nancy, great minds.
You know, Medicare is socialized medicine. This idea that, oh my God, so people have been brainwashed by the right-wing media that Bernie Sanders is a radical. It's amazing how brainwashed Americans are that watch right-wing media. Frankly, watching left-wing media also, watching CNN or MSNBC, where it's bad. We're going to turn into Norway. We're going to turn into those Nordic countries if we have every citizen taken care of. Oh, by the way, Norway is not socialized. They're not a socialist country. They're a market economy. So is Finland. So is Denmark. And oh, by the way, they do pretty darn well.
Switzerland.
And their citizens have a higher life expectancy. They have health care. They have great schools. They have no crime.
Scotland.
They don't have a ridiculous prison system. A for-profit prison system. So I love that Bernie's a radical. And we heard all of this during the Georgia runoff races, right? That, oh my God, you've got to vote for Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue because they're your firewall against this crazy socialism of Joseph Biden, who's a centrist Democrat who's voted to expand wars. But don't get in the weeds. As long as I just throw the scary word socialism out, you'll think it's true. Again, there has never in the history of this world been a pure socialist country. It's never existed. It's never existed.
Ever.
There's been different shades of it in different countries, but there's never been a pure socialist country in history. So when people want to throw that around, that it exists, it doesn't.
Well, and Daniel's saying the brainwashed people are those that believe Bernie isn't a radical socialist. He is not a radical socialist. Like, that's a Fox News talking point right there.
If he was in Norway, he'd just be like a normal, probably kind of middle-of-the-road politician. He wouldn't be radical at all. But in the United States, it's radical to want health care for our citizens. It's radical.
It's radical to want
that
change.
Our children should not have to be saddled with massive student loan debt. It's radical that we should not want to be bombing other countries continuously for 19 straight years and lining the pockets of defense contractors year after year after year. That's radical? No, people call you unpatriotic. That's how they've been able to brainwash you. The media has been able to brainwash you. Like, yeah, I don't want to spend this much on the military. Oh, you're unpatriotic. No, I support our troops. Do we need a massive standing army? For what? For what threat? Oh, we need the new beating of the war drums because we always need an enemy in this country. Which brings me to Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State. I've been wondering, I've been talking about this on the show. I have not seen any other mainstream media talking about this. I've looked for it. I haven't seen really anyone talking about this. Like, why is Mike Pompeo working so hard right now when everyone else has basically left? Like, why is Secretary of State Mike Pompeo going on all these trips?
It's his last-ditch effort to get a war with Iran. He's been trying to get a war with Iran for years. Years. And yes, him and Bolton, they've been trying to get into Iran for years. And so this is his last-ditch effort because after Biden, he's gone, right?
Yeah, and I have some sources in the diplomatic arena and who've told me these trips are incredibly difficult to orchestrate. Like, when you see somebody go to China, or a diplomat, when you see one of these guys, there's a whole staff that's having to put all kinds of briefing documents together, like working their asses off with like 2 days left. For what? What purpose? So why is are they literally trying to undermine the new administration coming in by making these last minute, like foreign movements?
Definitely.
You know, like, is something happening where Secretary of State Pompeo is trying to undermine the incoming White House?
Bush did it to
Obama.
Obama.
That anything else would be happening, because less than a week before he leaves office, Pompeo has delivered a deluge of last-minute measures that are going to impede the incoming Biden administration and how they can move on foreign policy.
How in the heck can he get away with inciting violence, like on live TV and all over the internet, like blatant incitement of violence? Yet, people get banned for less.
Well, it could be coming soon to a social media near you soon. I have my theories on this. I'm going to get to it in a second. But on Pompeo, I don't want your eyes to glaze over, folks, because these are the types of stories that the mainstream media is not covering. Or if they cover it in such a way where they want you to believe that we now need to go to war with Iran. I saw I was watching the nightly news last night. Pompeo is saying that Al-Qaeda has now made its home base in Iran. Well, since we're still at war with Al-Qaeda 19 years later, I guess we have to go to war with Iran now.
Well, the thing is,
me as a patriot.
The thing is, like, if they did, so what? Why is that our business? If they made their base in Iran, that's Iran's problem, not ours.
Right. By the way, Iran would think it was in a total affront to their regime to have Al-Qaeda in Iran. Iran would eradicate Al-Qaeda in Iran. That would be like ISIS sets up shop in Moscow. How long do you think that'll last? It's not going to last very long. So in the space of 4 days, the U.S. designated Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism. Remember that announcement last week? Like right during the Capitol insurrection? Like, here's a statement from the White House about Cuba. Like, hey, talk about being tone deaf. Did you just see your vice president was locked in a basement? They also then declared the Iran-backed Yemeni Houthis a terrorist organization. By the way, let me just contextualize that for you. Please don't let Yemen, when I say the word Yemen, don't let it lead to you clicking away or clicking your mouse or turning off your TV. It is one of the worst humanitarian crises in world history. People being destroyed, kids being, it's just an absolute nightmare. And now, by labeling them a terrorist organization, it dramatically increases it changes our ability to help those people. Okay, so we need to do that with 4 days left. They also then risked inflaming U.S.-China relations by ending limits on U.S. diplomatic contacts with Taiwan. Okay, and then this, Mike Pompeo said about Al-Qaeda. I want him to say it in his own words. And I just can't. I'm still wrapping my head around this one.
What about
but
the
no
two
one's
stealth
talking about
bombers
it.
that flew over?
Al-Qaeda has a new home base.
Really? Where?
It is the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Oh, okay.
As a result, bin Laden's wicked creation is poised to gain strength and capabilities. We ignore this Iran-Al-Qaeda nexus at our own peril. We need to acknowledge it.
Oh, it's a nexus.
We must confront it.
Let me guess.
Indeed, we must defeat
Before it comes in the shape of a mushroom cloud?
Yeah.
And we didn't recognize this 2 years ago.
A nuclear weapon. Imagine. That's going to be the narrative. Imagine Al-Qaeda getting their hands on Iran's nuclear weapons.
In a world where Iran has nuclear weapons.
They're coming for you. We need a new enemy. Oh, yes, we wanted to wind things down in Afghanistan. Sure, we'll do that. But now we need to wind up in Iran. This is how it happens, folks. A slow drip of BS. Don't be fooled by it. And you're going to start watching CNN. You're going to start to see generals popping up on there to be interviewed. We're going to interview General Casey now, coming up after the commercial break. General Casey, good to have you here on the show. Thanks, Jake. It's good to be here. Now, we heard Secretary of State Mike Pompeo talking about Al-Qaeda in Iran. Should we be concerned? I think we do, Jake. We need to put another couple of aircraft carriers in the Straits of Hormuz. What will that do? It'll scare them. But we need to build more of them. We need more money.
Have you ever seen the video, Mike Pompeo admitting as a CIA agent, like he lies, that you have to lie? Like he blatantly says, yeah, I'll have to get that video and show it to you. But he says that he has to, like, you have to lie. And he has lied. And did it proudly because that's what you have to do in the CIA.
Yeah, as head of the CIA, of course, you build a career on that, right? That's your whole career is a lie. Honey, how was your day at work? Great. I just worked down at the CVS pharmacy. Really? I went down there this afternoon and I didn't see you. Oh, I must have been on my lunch break. Meanwhile, I really work at the CIA. Of course they're lying. It's their whole, that's all they do. But you're going to be seeing this. Remember Colin Powell sitting there holding up the little vial? Weapons of mass destruction. We need to go into Iraq. As Donald Rumsfeld says, there's no good television targets in Afghanistan. We need to see us blowing up buildings for what Al-Qaeda did to us on 9/11. Yeah, but Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. We'll make it up. And 19 years later, we're still in this war. So now we need a new bad guy. Because what the hell are we doing in Afghanistan?
20 years.
Oh, I see. Al-Qaeda's not there anymore. They moved to Iran.
They ran to
And
Iran.
Israel certainly doesn't like Iran. So, hey, let's team up. We're going in now. We're going to destroy Iran. That's going to be our new regime change. Get ready. And so I just want to say this. The Financial Times did a story, really fascinating story this morning on this. And when the reporter asked, one administration official said, the flurry of measures was an effort to, quote, blow off steam in the waning days of the Trump administration. What? Wait a minute. I'm sorry, what? Mike Pompeo is just literally blowing off, they're just blowing off steam? Aren't there other ways you can blow off steam without screwing over the next administration's foreign policy objectives? We're just going to blow off steam by telling everyone that Al-Qaeda is in Iran with no evidence whatsoever. When pressed on that issue, they didn't provide any evidence of Al-Qaeda being in Iran. And not that we want to say what Iran has to think about this, but Iran came out immediately and said this is absolute garbage. Not that we can trust them necessarily, but there's no evidence. The White House provided none of it. But they're just doing this to, quote, blow off steam. I had to reread that a couple of times. So he's got all these domestic crises at home right now, Biden does. And now he's got to deal with this crap. What he's got in Yemen, now Iran.
Do you want to see this video? I got it pulled up if you want to.
Do you have it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, gonna cut to it.
Here's Mike Pompeo.
I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses.
Applause.
It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
Oh yeah, applause. Hey, let's give it up. And everyone applauds. Everyone applauds.
That's what gets me.
We steal, we cheat. Yeah, everyone's clapping. Like, this is great. This is just wonderful.
American exceptionalism, yay.
So what's going on here? I'll just put a bow on it by saying this. Get ready, folks. The reason that Mike Pompeo just the other day tweeted out, hey, by the way, here's my personal Twitter account. Come follow me over there. I won't be using this account anymore. He has managed to somehow remain untarnished by Trump, meaning Trump hasn't gone after him. He hasn't double-crossed Trump. He's not pulled a Mike Pence in the last few days of his administration. In fact, if anything, he's been the most vociferous supporter of Trumpism. What you are seeing, I mark my words, you heard it here first, is that Mike Pompeo is going to run for president in 2024. He will likely run against a Mike Pence for the Republican ticket. He will run on his foreign policy moves. He will run on the fact that he was the former head of the CIA. He will run on the fact that he is the standard bearer of Trumpism. And that President Trump will likely throw his support behind him when he runs for office and probably sets up running for office in the next 2 years. So get ready for Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to be the standard bearer and running for president. I'd be willing to bet on it.
Well, that's when we will officially be like the Roman Empire. How many wars can we get in my 4 years?
Yeah.
Because that guy is a warmonger.
Exactly. But hey, that's what Washington loves. That's what Washington loves. So it's not a surprise at all. there's a number of state capitals this morning that are just being blocked off
Morning,
all across
old
the country.
smokes.
I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Happy
looking at
Martin
the
Luther King
different,
Day.
Looking at these different capitals.
Sir.
State capitals across the country right now bracing.
But like Kentucky, West Virginia, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, all across the country, state capitals, like you can't get near them. They barricaded off with worries of violence against these state capitals. So
I need to go see if our capital.
and today's a holiday, so obviously Martin Luther King Day. So people are out of work. A lot of people out of work today. We got one day before inauguration, and we could see this flurry of pardons coming in this afternoon. So we'll keep our eye on all of that news. We're also still awaiting a framework on the stimulus plan. Once we get that final text, once we see what it actually looks like, we will talk about that. We're also waiting to find out when this impeachment trial in the Senate will happen, and when that officially will start. All of that and more we will be covering. So join us and subscribe to the channel. All you have to do is hit that little subscribe button right over here and follow us. Because tonight we're back at 4 p.m. Eastern Time with our next episode, our next live show of the program. So please join us. We'd love for you to join us there. Grover would love you to join us as well.
Man,
it's his ego.
I want that life. Sign me up.
It's his ego, really. Just he needs that stroking for you to join him. He does. 2 days, 1 hour, 56 minutes till Trump is getting evicted. So we will keep our eye on all of the developments out of the White House in Washington. Oh my gosh, this is going to be another very, very busy, very, very busy week around here. So thanks to everyone. Thanks everyone for subscribing to our daily newsletter as well. Really appreciate that. If you do get today's newsletter, please do me a favor and just reply. Just hit me back. It's Clayton@morninginvest.com. Just let me know that you got the newsletter. And we're trying to fix any bugs or any issues. Sometimes people type in their email address wrong and they wonder why they didn't get it. They might type instead of Comcast.com, they might forget the T, and we have to try to fix that for people. So if you sign up for our newsletter, just go to morninginvest.com. It's totally free. Just make sure you put in the proper email address. That way you'll get our newsletter first thing every morning. So thanks to you guys for signing up. Bonnie Clapple just sent me an email. Thank you. She says, I got the newsletter. Good. Good, Bonnie. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Oh, a little footnote, one little order of business. I published a brand new video over on our Paranormal Post channel, youtube.com/paranormalpost. I'm trying to pull up that website. There it is.
Well, and also, those of you that are in Discord, if you go to morninginvest.com/Discord, there is a paranormal channel in there, and every time Clayton uploads a video to that channel, it posts it in that room. So you get notified there as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Grover loves it. So we just published a new video last night on this UFO story. So if you go to youtube.com/paranormalpost, where we cover UFO stories, unexplained stories, mysteries, stuff I've been obsessed with since I was a little kid. But I have a new story on the Berkshire UFO incident.
You got echo too. Just
Anyway, I should have thought about this better. But anyway, go watch it. This is a great UFO story. It's one of the creepiest. So go check it out over on our Paranormal Post channel. Okay, everyone. Grover's howling. My dogs are barking. That means it must be time to end the show. We'll see you back here at 4 p.m. Everyone, have a great afternoon.
Hey Google, put on some chill hop.
Got it. Check out this chill hop music station on YouTube Music.
That's crazy, man. That are on a day like today that's dedicated to peace, reminder of unity, that we're in just 48 hours of that, we face the fear of complete chaos. I hope this whole week, though, remains in peace and unified under the fact that it is Martin Luther King's Day. And people of all cultures need to remember what he stood for. That's something that's called upon us, called on all of us at this pivotal point. Unity. I mean, if Martin Luther King was to be summed up in one word, if he could be summed up in one word, it'd be unity or unification. Me, myself, I'm a fine advocate and believer of that. Of course, with some tweaks on the theory. If we could get it right for 1 week, if only just 1 week, I think this would be the best week to get that unity and unification thing right. So we can coexist, find a way to coexist so that we still exist. executive decision like in order. I'll leave y'all with this hour. I'll be back. Stay safe, stay smart, stay up. Thanks for pulling up.